Hello, everybody. My name is Kimberly Husko, and I am with Takeda Talent Acquisition. And I also have Jim Ewing here with the Advertising and Promotion Regulatory Department, Amanda Keeley, and Kristen Highline. All right, so just to be in the sake of time, we're going to get started here. I'd like to, again, thank everybody for joining us today and welcome to Takeda virtually. As we go through today, I'd like to start by going over a high-level overview of Takeda and some of the key aspects of what Takeda is about when it comes to our patient trust, reputation, and business, which we call PTRB. So we are pleased again that you have chosen to be with us today to discuss the work with our team. And we're focused on, at this time, it's an amazing company, which has an incredible heritage and an exciting future. So just before I go any further, I just wanted to let everybody know right now all lines are muted. However, at any point throughout this webinar, please feel free in the chat box or the question box to put in any questions that you have for the team. And at the end of the presentation, we will open it up and start pulling questions from there and answering. All right, so as we go into what we are about Takeda, at the end of the day, it is all about our patients. And this is why Takeda has put an acronym together, which is called PTRB. Essentially what that is standing for is P is for patients, T is for trust, R is reputation, and B is business. And this is what we use as our decision-making framework and what we use as Takeda to truly make a difference, competing from our other businesses that are out there within the pharmaceutical industry. So those dimensions are often, again, more complex and challenging to balance. So our goal with Takeda is to help our teams better understand how to, again, build that patient trust, reputation, and business as we apply it in real life scenarios across the business. So this has always been an integral part of Takeda, who we are, as the company started on the docks of Osaka by our founder Toby in 1781. So going into our culture and our values. So putting patients first, again, over 2 centuries ago, 238 years, we've had a great amount of values-based R&D driven biopharmaceutical leader and headquarters within Japan, and we continue to be committed to over the past 3 decades, as well as moving forward. Takeda has transformed itself into a leading global pharmaceutical company, and through a number of recent strategic acquisitions, we like to continue to further bolster our portfolio, and those 2 that we believe we can be even more competitive in such a challenging and ever-changing environment. So as we look at where Takeda is in terms of a global picture, we have a presence in approximately 80 countries. We have 50,000 employees worldwide, and we are leading in positions in Japan and the US. Our growth is driven by our 14 global brands, with 50% of our revenue coming from the US, as you can see with the graph there as it splits it out. And then going more specifically into the US, as the #1 pharmaceutical market in the world, the US is a key priority hub for the company. Takeda is among the top 14 largest and 14 fastest growing pharmaceutical companies in the US, and we have more than 18,000 employees in the US dedicated to helping our patients across several parts of our business. So as we have it, Massachusetts is the nerve center for the US operations, housing the US Commercial Global Business Unit, the Global R&D, the Global Oncology, Global Vaccines, and Biologics Manufacturing. We have several locations across the Boston area and are the largest biotech employer in the state with more than 4,900 employees. Again, as Massachusetts is an ideal location for our US hub, it is home to more than 1,000 life science companies, academic institutions, and organizations dedicated to advancing the research, which is why we are able to build relationships with cutting-edge companies, leading research hospitals, academic institutions, scientists, and organizations who join us in the effort to discover, develop, and deliver new treatments for our patients. As we look outside of Massachusetts, we have operations in 5 states, including research and manufacturing facilities, as well as plasma donation centers across the country that support the life-saving work we do across rare and plasma-derived therapies. So again, going into our core values. So as Takeda, we have values-based company that we believe in serving the needs of our patients as they are. So putting the patient at that center, building the trust with our society, reinforcing our reputation, and developing the business. So again, these values ensure that when we are making our decisions or taking any form of action as a company, that we take it knowing that our PTRB, again, the patient's trust, reputation, and business, is the first in what we're doing to improve our company reputation and developing our business in that order. Takeda-isms and our PTRB priorities together guide us and unite us for better health and brighter future for people worldwide. Now, at this time, I'd like to hand it off to Jim Ewing, Senior Director, Excellence in Operations, U.S. Medical Advertising and Promotion Regulatory.
Thanks, Kimberly. We're getting a little bit of feedback on the line, so just want to ask everyone if they could mute their lines if they could. Thanks. But hi, everyone, and welcome. Really glad that everyone could join us here today. My name is Jim Ewing, and this is a new platform for us. So, you know, this is pretty novel for us, and it may be novel for you too. So I hope you find it informative and eye-opening in terms of you know, who we are and really what we want to do today is educate a little bit about our group, who we are, what we regulatory. Sorry, am I me? Can you guys hear me? Because I'm hearing some feedback. Yeah. Okay. Before we introduce you all to our group, Amanda and I just want to take a little bit of time to introduce ourselves, our background, our history, and just kind of how we got to where we are. And I'll start, and Amanda, if that's okay, I'll turn it over to you after that. So I've been in pharma for about 17 years. I'm born and raised in the Philadelphia area, so I've worked in this area my whole life. I started my career in regulatory operations at a company called Octagon, and the focus there was really electronic submissions and submitting them to the FDA, and that was back when electronic submissions were still novel. So there was kind of a cottage industry that popped up, and I was able to work there straight out of school and work there for 3 years. And during my time there, I learned that I was more interested in being involved in the strategy behind the applications that we were submitting instead of kind of formatting and filing them. So while I was at Octagon, I was deployed to be on site there to help them with some submissions at Shire. And I formed some strong bonds with the regulatory team there. And when an associate position opened up in the regulatory affairs department there, I jumped at it and actually, you know, worked for some people who are still mentors to me today. I spent about 7 years at Shire, and I worked in all facets of regulatory. I did clinical, or you know, what's I guess commonly referred to as regulatory strategy. I worked in CMC, labeling, and also ad promo. And I found that the ad promo work was always of most interest to me. I have a business degree with a marketing focus, so there were some synergies there, but more so I just felt that the way of thinking in the commercial space or the post-approval space was best suited for me and similar to, you know, I kind of had a similar mindset. Certainly nothing against R&D folks, but you know, personally, I don't have a scientific background, so for me, I always felt that this job allowed me to tap into some creativity that I think I have that I wasn't able to tap into on the kind of more R&D side. So while at Shire, over time, they went from what was called a generalist model, where you kind of did all parts of regulatory, to a specialist model, and that was when things were kind of broken out. And as soon as that happened, I moved into the ad promo space, and really haven't looked back since. From Shire, I moved to Teva, where I spent about 2 years doing ad promo and labeling work, leading the oncology franchise of products they had there. After that, I spent about 4.5 years at a small company called Jazz in Philadelphia, based in Palo Alto, California. And there I led ad promo activities for the sleep franchise, and eventually went on to lead a team supporting what became a global sleep business unit. And then back in November, I had the good fortune of reconnecting with Kristen, someone who I worked closely with during my Shire days, and learned about a new position in her group here at Takeda. And I jumped at that opportunity, knowing that Kristen and I had worked together before, and knowing that she had built a strong team here. It was kind of a no-brainer for me to join this group. So now I'm here in leading excellence in operations within ad promo, and in this role, I'm really able to work closely with our staff in ad promo to ensure that their day-to-day needs are met. So, and that's become really kind of important to me, and really what I've grown to love about this is, I'm able to be a resource and a sounding board for questions as they come up related to risk analysis, including things like risk escalations for our group. Another important part of my job is working with Kristen to make sure that our current staff is supported, from a resource capacity, but also from a professional development standpoint. And that's something that Kristen and I both are passionate about. And to that end, I've worked with Kristen on a lot of our recruiting efforts, and I'm grateful really to be able to participate in sessions like this, and really continue to build on the strong team that we've had really since before my time here. Other responsibilities I have include process development and refinement, especially as we kind of work through still some integration activities with Shire and Takeda. Also working on establishing best practices and strengthening some cross-functional partnerships that we have. And then I also oversee a couple of patient services activities and corporate affairs activities, as well as on an interim basis, I'm leading up our hematology franchise. So I've not been here terribly long. It's been since November, but I've gotten a good kind of sense of the business as a whole, and especially our team. So I'm looking forward to telling you more about our team. That's my professional life story, but now I'll turn it over to Amanda.
Hi, everybody. I am the Associate Director for the Rare Disease franchise here in the Advertising and Promotion Group, and my name is Amanda Kelly. There's a lot of similarities in some of the journeys that Jim and I have taken to get to where we are today, but to give you a little sense of my background, I was a political science undergrad major, and looking into doing public administration and community engagement. And I thought I would work in government. I ended up doing an internship in Washington, D.C., working for a lobbyist, and kind of stayed there for a little while. And then found a really great opportunity to work in the industry when a small medical device company was looking for someone to help them with government relations and also do some work in their regulatory department. So for about 3 years, I worked with this great, a smaller organization, and kind of got a really terrific understanding of all parts of regulatory affairs and how a business works, healthcare compliance, things like that. And because I was working on so many wonderful things, I thought it would be a really great opportunity to move to another company to get a little bit more specialized in a kind of single focus area. So that's when I came to Shire, and at the time I was working on the regulatory submissions to the FDA, focusing primarily on the submissions that we do to send our promotional materials to the FDA. A unique challenge and opportunity there was to convert all of our paper-based submissions to an electronic submission format, and that's kind of something I focused on there. So as a part of that, I was working closely with the regulatory advertising and promotion team, and got to really be interested in what they were doing, and now we are doing. So as a part of that, it was still my tenure at Shire, but then when Shire was acquired by Takeda in January of 2019, I got to be a part of the Takeda family. So overall, I've been with the organization. This will just be about my 5-year anniversary in May. So I've been working with Kristen for a really long time. I've had a really great experience working with Jim as well. And I think, it's just kind of been part of my journey to get here. And now I'm kind of responsible for overseeing and leading the therapeutic area of our rare disease products. So I think one of the other unique things that has kind of happened as we've transitioned into the Takeda operating model is that the advertising and promotion team is part of our U.S. medical business, in part of the U.S. The franchise, the U.S. business and U.S. medical. And I think that's a little bit different than what most people might know how regulatory functions fit within an organization. Usually we're kind of maybe in the R&D organization, in a different part. But I'd like, we found a really nice home here in the U.S. business where we're, working with Med Affairs colleagues and also our colleagues who are, sitting in the same seats that we are in those promotional review committee meetings. So we are, able to partner with them better, and we have a really terrific leadership structure that understands the needs of what we're doing because we represent such a big part of the overall organization. So, as part of that, we still maintain connectivity to R&D, and maybe Jim can speak to that a little bit. But it's great. It's been a little bit over a year now working in the Takeda business.
Yeah, thanks, Amanda. And it's a good point about our organizational structure within U.S. Medical, specifically, maybe a little bit different than what most people may have seen in other companies. And I've seen it, our group placed in really a few different areas in the business. But I find this model, as you described, advantageous. Having been in R&D and been situated in R&D and having to do things like make a business case for headcount, it's a lot easier to do. I think how we're positioned relative to R&D and kind of being more focused on phases of development and things like that. So yeah, I think there's a lot of good synergies that come from us being situated where we are. And I think we still have the opportunity to work closely with the regulatory strategy folks and the broader regulatory team through global regulatory teams. And we'll get into a little bit of where we're involved in some of those specific things later on. But yeah, I think it's a nice setup personally, having lived through a few different kind of organizational positions myself. So, I know that the slide on the screen now is one that you kind of saw already from Kim's part of the presentation, and I won't go over that again specifically, but I do want to relate these concepts and these values to our work and what we do every day in the ad promo group. These are behaviors that everyone in the company is really expected to have every day. And as I think about it, I also kind of relate these concepts to the work that we do and the output of our work, and importantly, things like integrity, honesty, fairness, to me apply not just to our behaviors, but to our actions and also the communications that we touch in our role. I often say that I think, for our product or whatever space we work, we really touch almost every, public facing communication that there is for that product in some way, shape, or form. And so, that's the standard that we hold to ourselves as we work towards, a goal or a work product, but that's also the standard I think we hold to our work product itself. And a lot of that really kind of rings true to me in terms of how we think about what we're trying to do when we do our work. And as Kim mentioned, the concept of PTRB, that is something that you'll hear a lot, I think, in the work that we do and in the conversations that we have. And to me personally, it's refreshing to work for a company that has such a clear articulation of how it expects its employees to act. I think you see these concepts living in some part of most companies' mission statements or general values, but this sort of executional guidance to me is really helpful, and it really does provide a foundation for the risk decisions and discussions that we have within our group. You know, Amanda and I were talking earlier, and I know, Amanda, you're going through your MBA courses now. Can you maybe put this into context relative to, you know, kind of what you're seeing and just learning about how companies in general apply these sorts of principles and values?
Yeah, I think yeah, we had an interesting conversation about in an ethics course, and just like in my MBA program, we were talking about how companies, it's really important for companies to set up strong ethical decision-making frameworks that employees actually use to help guide them through their day-to-day. And I think one of the kind of characteristics of larger companies, a lot of things are driven by SOPs and work instructions and guidance documents. And I think Takeda puts a really, you know, we have all those things, but Takeda puts a really nice emphasis on, you know, using this framework to help guide our discussions in day-to-day decision making. And it's like brought up in a meeting, and it's not used as a weapon. It's used as a constructive tool to kind of talk through the priorities of what's going on and how we're, you know, really making sure that we're always putting the patient first. And, you know, maybe that's sometimes not always to the best decision for the money factor, but it's often the right decision for all the things that come before it, which is, you know, patients, our trust in the community, and our reputation. So it's been really refreshing to see that, you know, reflected in the company that I work for when we're talking about it more on just a theory level in my studies. So.
No, that's great, and I think that terminology you use, decision-making framework, to me, that's really the perfect way to describe this. And you know, we make decisions every day that have to do with all the concepts that are covered in PTRB. So so great. Thanks for sharing that. Kim, if you can go to the next slide. So this is our mission statement, and this is really kind of how we try to take those core values and integrate it into the work that we do. And I'll just read it to you because it's relatively brief. But we maximize the delivery of compelling and compliant material in a timely manner by providing operational excellence while focusing on customer needs. And certainly you can see some of those concepts of PTRB living in that statement. But I think, you know, you see compelling, compliant, and timely called out, and obviously that's on purpose. I think just to spend a little bit of time on that, you know, I think one of the most important parts of our role is trying to strike the balance between managing risk and maximizing effectiveness. You know, really to be our best, we can't have just one or the other. And trying to find that balance is, I think, a skill and even kind of an art that all of us really constantly strive to get better at. And you know, in a boundary role like ours, where we're kind of, you know, representing to a certain extent, you know, the government or the FDA's position and guiding the company on how to comply with those things, we're also guiding the company on how to maximize the opportunity within that space that we have to operate in. And you know, timeliness, of course, is important to support the business. As we all know, that the business will continue to move along, and we have a lot of decisions to make. I often say, I think, you know, this venue of review committees that look at promotional material especially, I don't know that there's a better example of efficient and effective decision making when it works well. You know, I don't think there's a better example of that really in the company than that group of people. They make decisions every day. They make timely decisions, and they move on to the next one. And I think that's important to be able to do. And we rely on a mature and a robust review process that our commercial services organization owns. And we rely on cross-functional experts, including ourselves, in those review committees to make sure that we're making good decisions and making them in a timely fashion, and ultimately, you know, meeting the business need to be able to talk about our products. And really, you know, bringing it back to this group, you know, when we look for folks to join our team, we're looking for versatile candidates who can combine the skills of regulatory risk analysis with the art of negotiation do it all in a collaborative spirit so that we can really meet this entire mission statement, but those kind of 3 pillar activities or 3 pillar concepts within the mission statement. So if you go to the next slide, Kim. So here we just want to tell you a little bit about, let's say, kind of the personality of our group, or what we look for within ourselves and with folks who join our team. And I'm going to kind of put some of these concepts in my own words. You can read the slide, of course. But we're passionate about striking that balance between maintaining compliance and maximizing commercial opportunity. I talked a little bit about that. That's really an expectation, I think, for all of us. And again, it's something I think we always continue to work towards and adapt, to different things like regulatory environment. And, I think a lot of what we do has to be kind of adaptive to different aspects of not only regulatory environment, but business environment as well. And for us, the gray area, or those challenging concepts, to me, that presents opportunity for creativity and strategic thinking. That's the fun part of the job, I think. I think we always have to remember to not let uncertainty lead us to kind of default conservativeness and potential missed opportunities. That's not to say that we don't kind of respect and follow regulation, guidance, best practice, but I think we have to look at those gray areas really as opportunity to explore what's able to be done.
Yeah, Jim, I wanted to just punch in there a little second, because I think maybe if we, there's an opportunity, if someone maybe who isn't familiar with regulatory affairs generally is joining us, I think what you're talking about is a really core part of regulatory professionals generally. I think the beauty of this role is combining like the rules and the regulations and that law component along with the FDA's guidances and their current thinkings, as well as their history of enforcement. And so you have all this like set of kind of boundaries to operate in, and then there's this whole other space of like how to creatively execute on them. And I think that's where you can learn. You can study all of those regulations and guidances and enforcement and history, but the real value of like our team and the candidates that we look for is in that taking those that information and applying it creatively, and like looking at the industry and saying, how do we deal with social media, and like how do we creatively meet all these requirements and adapt. And I think, that's something that's core within any regulatory function, like any strategy function, maybe more R&D focused, but I think it's like a little bit more fun when you're doing it on the advertising side, right? You're seeing the marketing, you're working with all of those pretty colors and all that, and then you're seeing it in real life, and you're seeing it executed and hopefully executed well. So I just kind of wanted to put a little color there in case someone might not really know too much about the area of regulatory.
Yeah, thank you. And that creativity that you talked about, that's what, I mean, you're spot on. I think that is the fun part to me, that the creative license that we get within that construct of that framework it is very different than what you would see on the clinical regulatory side per se, and it really can be a lot of fun. It's really been one of my favorite parts of the job myself. So yeah, thank you for adding that. So I think another key concept for us as a group is we want all team members to be open-minded and assume positive intent to kind of set up a solution-oriented mindset, and that kind of ties into what I think Amanda was talking about, in that we see some pretty interesting ideas and concepts and things come forward to us, and sometimes we have to learn new technology and new platforms and understand functionality and things like that. And I think with that comes opportunity to kind of flex that regulatory muscle and learn how to apply what you've done before to something you've never done before. And when I say assume positive intent, I think that's kind of been a slogan of folks I've worked with in the past, and it's sort of like entered my vernacular as well, because I think it really speaks to when we're working so closely, especially with our commercial partners, you always have to keep that open mind and assume positive intent, because if that sort of changes that dynamic changes, I think it changes the dynamic of the conversation. And if any party really involved in that partnership starts to believe that someone just doesn't get it or understand them and sort of develops a negative perception, I think that can color really the relationship and the work product. So we're always trying to just kind of be leaders in that forum to keep a positive tone and a positive mindset in terms of collaborating with our stakeholders. And last but not least, we expect our team to have fun. We want our team to have fun. We do spend a lot of time with our cross-functional partners and with our team as well within ad promo. And as I said, we do believe that we set the tone for that collaborative environment, but also, we have to have fun in what we do, and we do try to make a point to spend some time with each other within the ad promo group, and that's obviously become a little bit more challenging in quarantine mode, but we found some ways to do that. And Amanda, you're kind of like our social organizer. Maybe you could talk a little bit about some of the things that we've done.
Yeah, I mean, we're here, right? It's strange trying to find ways to virtually connect and make sure that people can kind of see us for who we are. But yeah, even within the team, we have kind of a weekly social hour, and we kind of use that time to maybe do some trivia or ask questions and just kind of get to know how people are doing and what's going on. We have some new colleagues on our team that we just need to get to know, right? So it's something that our team is really committed to, because I think we've seen the benefit of those types of interactions, right? Like even because we have them with our marketing teams, we have them with our legal colleagues and our medical colleagues on a daily basis, more so because those are our direct business partners, people we're working with every day. But we really want to make sure that we're building our team to have a good culture of collaboration and fun, because yeah, it's just work can be a little tedious when you're just it's rules and regulations, but we try to have fun with each other.
Yeah, and I can just add, as I think the first group member for us that's permanently based in the Exton, PA, so the Philadelphia suburb office. I would certainly welcome anyone to speak to my colleagues in our department, but I have felt no sort of disconnection or social separation from where I'm at relative to the balance of the group being in the Boston area, the offices we have in the Boston area. And that was before, travel restrictions and things like that. And I feel like actually, especially since then, people have just gone out of their way to video conference, do different things to maintain those social connections. And since my joining, we've hired, I want to say, 4 more folks in the Exton office. So we are building a team there, and we'll kind of have a little subculture there, which will be great, but still the larger connectivity. I think we've worked hard to maintain that, and maintain it through whatever, is the time frame of the quarantine and travel restrictions and things like that. And I want to say too, as we talk about these like commonalities or, kind of ways of thinking that we want to share, I also think we have a really diverse group within our group, and diverse backgrounds, different educations, different perspectives, people coming from different parts of the industry, people coming from out of industry altogether. We have PharmDs, we have JDs, we have people like me who don't have any letters after their name. And so we have a nice, I think, cross section of different experience that allows us to just gives us more perspective to tap into. And I think, especially as we've hired a few more like junior roles in our group, I think that's really been exciting to see where they're coming from and kind of help them grow into their role. So Kim, if you go to the next slide. So I just want to explain to the group that being a member of our team means a lot more than just reviewing and approving promotional material. Certainly that's a big part of what we do. And when you look at behaviors and things like that, a lot of that is really central to our role in that review committee and working with those cross-functional partners. But really at all levels of our organization, we look for opportunities to expand our areas of influence. And if you look at this slide, I won't spend more than a few seconds on each one, but I do just want to kind of give a nod to some of the different things that we're involved in beyond just, again, reviewing material. And these are things that we all kind of touch to a certain extent, some more than others, but there's lots of opportunity to work on things like policy and standards, if that's something that you're interested in. We all kind of have some touch points with corporate affairs and things like press releases, and those I think are really interesting because they present some different kind of a different twist on evaluating risk, and certainly a different level of visibility within the organization. We are involved to a certain extent with reviewing medical material, so looking at that sort of scientific exchange venue and making sure we're managing risk or minimizing promotional tone, things like that. All of us are involved in just kind of keeping abreast of what's going on in the industry and policy and regulation and guidance changes, things like that. We talked a little bit about our connectivity with the broader regulatory team, and that's through our global regulatory teams. But another big part of what we do is contribute to label discussions and labeling strategy. And we have a labeling group that manages the content of those documents and getting cross-functional stakeholders together and liaising with FDA. But we are a contributor to that conversation, and I think an important one when it comes to thinking about how we best position our labels to maximize our opportunity from a commercial standpoint, and now thinking about things like the consistent with label guidance and what do we need in the label. I think there's lots of opportunity for us to add strategic value there. And we have some things that we call our centers of excellence that we're working on to build really kind of areas of expertise for individuals in our group, so that it's sort of an above product sort of concept. And social media is kind of the easiest one that I think that comes to mind for people. But trying to tackle some of these larger platform issues or topical issues above brand, so that we can have a consistent approach, kind of at the brand level. We are involved in some clinical trial work, touching things like site recruitment material for clinical trials, and then importantly, we are a strategic partner for the commercial group here, and that includes things well before or beyond the tactic level, things like brand plans, speaker training, and just general partnership with the commercial team to make sure that as they build their strategy, it's thoughtful of regulatory concepts and principles, so that when we get to the tactical level, we're not kind of throwing a wrench in things or having to go back to the drawing board at a concept level. Amanda, can I ask you, knowing that you're kind of living a lot of these things day to day, can you maybe add some color to what you're involved in some of these areas beyond the promotional review piece?
Yeah, for sure. I am, currently working on some investigational, projects, and I think being involved in some of those kind of strategic discussions about labeling, like we're part of that, a person on that labeling working group, and just kind of understanding what's going on. And I think, it's also about just having a value add as a stakeholder, right? People think, oh, maybe I'm going to call Amanda, I'm going to ask her, she might know who to talk to. Do we need to, like, is legal a voice here? Does this not sound right? Are we going in the wrong direction in terms of wording here? So there's a lot of that kind of day to day, and being someone who's there on the phone listening and understanding. I think among the kind of like centers of excellence and trying to build those out, I mean, we are a global pharmaceutical company now. We're one of the biggest. We should be generating thought-provoking ideas on that kind of stuff, right? Like, we have people who are new thinkers and new to this space, and we have people on our team who've been doing it for a really long time. Like, we should be able to come to some like really good decisions and have compelling advice to kind of share with ourselves and standards to use for us, and then kind of maybe more broadly with our industry partners. In terms of like the brand plans and the speaker programs, things like that, we're involved in helping train our speakers who engage in promotional activities on our behalf, and kind of getting our voice in there as well, so that they understand, like, well, why can't I say that? It's like, I'm right here to tell you why. So I think that's kind of a big part of our, goal, and a part of, I think, what makes our team so valuable and successful in our interactions with our business partners across the board. They just know they can come to us. We might have an answer, we might not, but like 9 times out of 10, we're there to help kind of figure something out. So.
Yeah, I agree. I think the opportunity to think through those issues at that level with the team is really critical for us and for them. And I'll say, Amanda, obviously I've interacted with some of your stakeholders, and I think you are a good example of how, if you apply that effort to build those relationships, it's reciprocated in inclusion in a lot of those activities. And sometimes we just have to get a chance to have a seat at the table, and people will see our value. And so we continue to work towards that. We look for other areas where maybe we're not already, or we don't have a strong foothold, and look for that opportunity to demonstrate value and kind of earn a seat at the table at some of those discussions. Mm-hmm. Kim, you can go to the next slide. So here I just wanted to explain a little bit about what we have within the U.S. business unit in terms of therapeutic areas. And we have a number of therapeutic areas, and we have a number of products. And it's really important, I think, to us, and I know to Kristen too, to get our team exposed to a number of different therapeutic areas. And that's important, I think, for a number of reasons. It allows, I think, us to learn certainly, the different science behind products, different disease states and sort of nuances within that. Allows us to learn differences in, risk tolerance within the business as a whole. Certainly a mature brand that's, barely marketed is going to have different discussions than a sort of a flagship brand with a huge marketing budget. So I think, giving people exposure to those things at some level is important. And certainly as you come in, as a new employee, you would be assigned to a product. But I think, we look for opportunities where we can to just, grow that breadth of experience. And we have over 50 marketed products and dozens more in development in these therapeutic areas and kind of beyond. So there's lots of ways, I think, at Takeda that you can contribute to the company mission, but also to your own growth and development. And so, I think it's just important for anyone coming into this group to know that that development is really important to us, and it sort of applies at all levels. And I think certainly, as you would expect, I think for most companies, I think it's up to the individual to own their development plan. But the leadership team here and really everyone is all ears and looks for opportunities to allow people to explore different areas within our group, different therapeutic areas within the company. So I think especially for someone who's maybe newer to the space or to the ad promo function, we really do try to do our best to set you up for success. And I was wondering, Amanda, could you maybe talk a little bit about just sort of the onboarding process in general for new hires as it relates to maybe newer folks or more tenured folks?
Yes, for sure. We have a pretty robust onboarding process. I think the specific training program that you might get depends on your level of experience, and it's kind of just tailored to you. So for someone new, it might be a really intense overview of the guidances and the regulations and past history of enforcement. If it's someone who's been doing this for a really long time, maybe it's just a little bit of mentorship or peer coaching to get a sense of what the way we do things at Takeda is, our SOPs, the culture, the players involved. So one of the kind of core tenets of that, though, for everybody is always, having a lot of mentoring opportunities and having that one-on-one support. So you just know that there's someone there who maybe is beside your line manager that you can ask questions to, and you can go to with pretty much anything about the company that you want to learn or anything about the department you want to learn. So we kind of try to make sure that there are multiple lines of open communication for you, and depending on your level of experience, we'll design a onboarding program that fits you. But we've had the benefit of kind of onboarding folks at all different levels. So we have something pretty good set up, I would say. I mean, I benefited from it, at least.
Yeah, same here. And I'm going through that sort of curriculum with a number of new hires now, and it seems to be well received. And I think I like what you said too. I think of it kind of as usually like a three-pronged approach. There's your manager, who's obviously always there for you to support you. You have someone like me who might kind of take over a broader education effort, as we've done with some of the new hires. And then you have kind of a peer coach, or someone who you're shadowing or sort of learning on the job. Maybe you're taking over the responsibilities, or maybe you're working with them on a product. And so I think that kind of surround sound approach to mentorship and coaching, really, as you said, at all levels, is valuable for anyone coming into the group, and especially folks who are new to the space. So I think that's all that we have in the way of just overview slides, and it's good because I hope you can't hear the landscaping effort that's going on in my neighbor's house right now. So I'll take a break from talking and turn it over to Kim, maybe to talk a little bit about specifically the roles that we have. And Kim, if you're talking, I think you're on mute.
Hello, can everybody hear me now?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Well, thank you very much, Jim, and thank you, Amanda. So again, wanted to be respectful of time and so that we can get to some questions. So before doing that, we do have several slides that are just overviewing 4 positions. It's just hitting on a couple of high-level points of positions that we do have open currently, from manager level to senior manager level, associate director, all the way up to director. And so essentially what Jim and I think Amanda too had touched on about what it is that we're looking for, some additional points to that is the level of position. When we talk to somebody, or when I speak with somebody that is interested, we kind of elevate or evaluate and see based upon your years of experience, starting with somebody that maybe is more entry level, going on up to figure out what level would be best for somebody. So again, we do have 4 open positions. We will be sending this slide deck out after our webinar is completed, so you can take a look at those slides, or we do include obviously the titles. You can look them up on Takeda's website, or at the very end of the presentation, my contact information will be provided, and I'm happy to speak with anybody that would like to have a conversation about open positions, either now or even in the future. We are obviously always open to connecting to people for future opportunities as well. So with that said, I wanted to open it up and move into our Q&A. So I would just again ask that if anybody does have any questions that they would like us to answer, to please put them in the chat box or the question box, either one. So our first question is it sounds like there is a mix of tenure across the panel. There is a question of Jim, Amanda, or maybe even Kristen. I know you haven't been able to speak yet, but would any of you like to share why you chose Takeda to join?
I'm happy to start. This is Jim. For me, it was a combination of a few things. I had the fortune of knowing and working with Kristen before, and a lot of other folks from my Shire days. So, I think it's always really important to know as much as you can about who your manager is going to be and their philosophy and just their general approach and what kind of support you're going to have. So for me, that was a huge part of it. But, coming from a smaller company where I was at Jazz, was a great opportunity, and I learned a lot. And, I think, one of the attractions to me at Takeda was just the heritage and the culture and knowing, kind of frankly, like the stability that comes with a company that's been around that long with a pipeline that rich. At a smaller company, there's a lot of opportunity to do different things, but, sometimes there's a lot of risk with that too, in terms of, lack of pipeline or kind of having most of your eggs in 1 or 2 baskets. So For me, it was a combination of just knowing the support structure I would have and knowing the talent a little bit already, and also just the stability and the history of the company.
Good point, Jim.
Jim.
I was in a similar situation, coming from small company, wanting to, though it was shire at the time, like wanting to kind of have a little bit more stability and just a bigger group of people to pull information from and to learn from, right? Who know my job, who know what I do every day.
Thank you, Amanda. All right, going to the next question. Somebody had asked if we can explain the importance of diversity to Takeda. So I think this is a huge word right now, right? It's very important to everybody, and I think it always will be important to everybody. And as Jim and Amanda lightly touched on, as far as the diversity within their team, it's also a very important thing within overall Takeda as an organization. And so we, obviously Takeda most recently has recognized the events together that have caused, the amounts of pain and frustration across our nation within our own Takeda community, and in particular for our African American colleagues and families. And so Takeda has really felt that it's why we're standing together and speaking up definitely and firmly to obviously denounce any hatred or condemn of any acts of racism or injustice. And it's why, as a whole, we stand together to express our solidarity and to make sure that in our practices as a business or in our practices as hiring, that we would like to make sure that we have that diversity. Again, that means it in many ways: diversity of thought, diversity in nurturing a culture of understanding, honesty, empathy, and respect, and making sure that everyone celebrates and embraces each other and their unique differences and experiences. So again, as an individual and as an organization, we must continue to find ways to, fight the intolerance and racism and to promote inclusiveness and compassion. And again, that's why Takeda, we're here, and our mission of being one Takeda and together in solidarity. And if anybody else from the team has any additional comments, please feel free to add them. Okay.
Great,
So yeah, go ahead.
No, I just said you did great. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, then I'll go to our next question. So again, I know right now with COVID and working from home, that is a hot topic as well. So, a couple of things about Takeda is they're very big on making sure that their overall organization is aware of how we can support our team members and everybody and the patients throughout different things that are going on in the world. And so with COVID, what the organization did is set up a global crisis management committee, and they're essentially the individuals that repetitively will put out messages, providing updates, providing support for anybody that is across the organization, or again, to making sure that our patients who are identified as some of those immune compromised individuals, that we're making sure to be very sensitive to both, right? And with that, Takeda made an early decision to bring everybody out of the offices and in a staggered approach and very informative approach to everybody, but made sure that everybody was comfortable running their teams from a remote presence, which we can continue to do. And we receive regular updates, and we're carefully monitoring the environment at the federal, the state, and the local level. And Takeda, again, continues to prioritize the safety of our employees, our customers, our communities. And once we feel that it is safe, gradually return to our site-based work. But until then, as you see with what we're doing today, we're utilizing technology and taking advantage of being able to do personable virtual meetings or interviews, and even our onboarding process has been moved to completely a virtual presence. All right, and our next question is how does Takeda as an organization promote the professional growth and development of its employees? Kristen, maybe since we haven't heard from you yet, would you want to give a quick introductory of who you are and then maybe take that question?
Sure, thanks, Kim. So thanks for those that are on the phone call today. Kristen Heinlein, I head up the U.S. advertising promotion team, and very fortunate to have Amanda and Jim on my team. I mean, this is what makes my job so much easier, frankly. You know, as Jim mentioned, we really do take, you know, growth and development very seriously on our own team. We do have documented, you know, plans. We work with the managers, and even if there's an interest outside of our group, whether it be in compliance or legal or on the marketing team, we really do try to facilitate as much growth and experience. It's not always just, you know, like a checkbox activity, you know, I did a launch or I did this. It's about really creating this lattice work of experience, which allows us to be very successful in our role. So I don't know, Jim or Amanda, if you want to speak from your experience, but that's really been, you know, it's at the heart of what we do, you know, as a leadership team.
Yeah. I'll say, Chris, as a, you know, I think, as I mentioned, you know, really everyone, the individual needs to own their development plan, but I've been really impressed by, you know, our group's focus on that and encouragement of that concept. And, you know, I think for all people leaders within our group, the expectation really is that, you know, they help the employee drive that performance, that development discussion. And so, yes, you know, it's owned by the individual, but you know, the expectation really from the top down is that we're having those conversations and not just having them at the sort of annual level, you know, goal setting and later on performance evaluation. It's really an ongoing discussion year round.
Yeah, I've had the same experience. I mean, I've benefited from the development plans that have been put in place by many leaders in the organization. I think identifying what you want to be, you know, what an area of interest, it's really just, it's like almost just as simple as that, to be like, I think it's really cool what they're doing over here. Can I learn more about it? And it's like, we have a team to help figure that out and make that happen for, it's happened for me, and it happens, you know, now I can pass that on to the people that report to me and say, you know, well, let's find a way to prioritize your work and have some good balance here. And I think that's another kind of attractive reason why I, you know, this department and organization is terrific.
Great, thank you. So you know, we have a couple minutes left, so I think we'll try to take this last question here, and it was in regards to, you know, why do you like working at Takeda and what motivates you every day? So if you guys are okay, I was actually going to also kind of put in my answer to this question, and I'll have you guys all answer it as well. You know, as a recruiter for Takeda, I get this question a lot, and I've thought very hard about it, because for me, as what I do as a profession is helping individuals make sure and understand whether Takeda is the right organization for them on both sides. That we as an organization are looking for the type of talent that will fit within Takeda, but then also helping those individuals identify the organization as well. So for me, I really have to stand behind Takeda as a company, and for me, I've been in, you know, supporting Takeda for 5 years now in many parts of the organization, and I love it, and I just love what Takeda stands for. So for me, again, it's all about I can't invite people to a company that I don't stand beside myself. So again, that's just my 2 cents, and I want to open up to anybody else.
I'll chime in. You know, for me, it's the people. You know, this job does not necessarily vary from company to company. You know, Jim outlined a lot of the other areas that we get involved with. But for me, it's the people. It's the fact that we get to collaborate and interact with so many different functions. And, you know, I think it's a really exciting time here within the US because we're growing, really trying to bring, you know, specifically our team to the next level and really challenge ourselves to think outside the box. And we can't do having some amazing, you know, people on the team that are really committed to each other.
Yeah, Kristen, I mean, I'm going to give you a little nod too, because I think the fact that the organization is really kind of that compelling focused, that we are seen as a valued business partner to the commercial organization, and so those relationships are really positive. And that's kind of, you don't have to walk into the room and build that, like you kind of walk into those PRTs with a established sense of kind of positivity and openness and a little bit of trust there. So I totally agree. The people are kind of what makes this this organization set itself apart.
Great. Well, again, from all of us with Takeda, we greatly appreciate your time. I know it's the top of the hour. As we stated at the beginning, we will be sending out the slides and the recording to everybody. So hopefully, if you have any interest, please feel free to reach out to me. My contact information will be included. But again, thank you.